So, what's the EU actually doing for young people? It's a massive question, right? Well, today we're going to get some real answers. We are breaking down the official EU work plan for youth for the next 3 years, from 2025 to 2027. Think of this as your inside guide to the policies and opportunities being shaped for you right now. The plan itself uses this really cool metaphor. It says it's not just some boring document full of rules. Nope, it's designed to be a compass. A guide that's going to set the direction for youth policy across all the member states for the next 3 years.
Okay, so how are we going to navigate with this compass? First, we'll get a handle on its purpose and the big goals behind it. Then we'll dive into the nitty-gritty of the 2025-2027 action plan. And maybe most importantly, we'll look at how your voice actually fits into all of this and what it means for the future of Europe. Let's get into it.
All right, let's jump right in. To really get what this new 3-year plan is all about, you got to see where it fits in the bigger picture, because it's not just some random document. It's a super important piece of a much, much larger strategy.
Okay, think of it like this. You've got this huge, long-term EU youth strategy that runs all the way to 2027. But a giant strategy like that is kind of hard to tackle all at once, right? So to make it actually happen, they break it down into shorter 3-year work plans. And this one we're talking about today, it's the latest one, and it's all about turning those big ideas into real, concrete actions.
So what's the point of all this planning anyway? Why does this strategy even exist? Well, it all boils down to a set of core goals. And here's the key part. They were developed with young people, for young people.
The whole thing is built on this foundation, the 11 European Youth Goals. And seriously, these weren't just dreamed up in some boardroom. They came from tons of conversations with young people all across Europe. And they cover the stuff that really matters, like mental health, inclusion, and getting involved in your community. Okay, now we're getting to the heart of it. We've talked about the why, so let's get into the what. What's actually on the agenda for the next 3 years? Let's break it down. So instead of just throwing a long, boring list of policies at us, the plan is cleverly organized around a few key themes. And the first big one is all about connecting EU with youth, basically making that connection between young people and the whole European project a lot stronger. And you can see exactly how this works in practice. So, in March 2025, there's going to be a big EU Youth Conference in Lublin focused on strengthening European identity. Then, in the first half of 2026, we've got European Youth Week, which is all about celebrating youth engagement. And this is a big one. Also in 2026, there are going to be official agreements, actual council conclusions on building young people's trust in the EU. That's a huge deal.
Okay, moving on to the next major theme. It's called Space and Participation for All. And really, it's asking a simple question. How do we make sure every young person has a say? This whole section is about creating real, accessible ways for everyone to get involved. And again, the plan lays out some really clear steps. So in the second half of 2025, an EU Youth Conference is going to focus specifically on youth participation in democracy. Then, in 2026, the discussion shifts to making sure spaces, both physical and digital, are more inclusive for young people. And in early 2027, the focus is on civic engagement and media literacy. And let's be real, in an era of so much misinformation, those skills are absolutely crucial. So all of this sounds pretty good, right? But I get it. It can also feel kind of high level and distant. So let's bring it right back down to earth. Let's talk about you. How does this big plan actually connect to your ability to get involved and make your voice heard? Yeah, this is probably the most important question of all, isn't it? How can you actually participate? Because it's one thing to have a plan on paper, but it's a whole other thing to be a part of it. Well, the good news is there are specific ways to do just that. Okay, the key term you need to know is the EU Youth Dialogue. Now, this is not just some online suggestion box where ideas go to disappear. No, this is the official, structured process where young people and policymakers actually sit down together, discuss the big issues, and create recommendations that feed directly into future policies. And it's not just about that formal dialogue. There are a ton of other tools you can use. I'm talking about things like the Erasmus Plus program and the European Solidarity Corps, where you can actually go abroad to study or volunteer. There's the European Youth Portal, which is packed with information, and you can get involved in discussions happening in your own country. These are all real, concrete ways to get your voice in the mix. All right, so let's start to wrap this up. Here's a really important thing to remember. This plan isn't set in stone. It's not a static report. It's more like a living, breathing document that's already looking ahead to what's coming next, even past 2027. And check this out. The timeline for the future is already being mapped out. In the first half of 2026, this very work plan we're talking about will get a review and a refresh. Then in 2027, the Commission will start drawing up the next big EU youth strategy. And by the end of that year, talks will start on a potential long-term strategy that could go all the way to 2036. The ball is already rolling. So, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. This isn't just a report that gets filed away. It's a continuous cycle. They plan, they act, they listen to feedback from young people, and then, this is the crucial part, they use that feedback to shape what comes next. Your voice, your engagement, that's the fuel that keeps this entire engine running. And that brings us to one final question for you. The process for that next big strategy after 2027 is already starting to ramp up. So what's the one idea, the one thing you think EU leaders absolutely need to hear from young people before they write it? Think about it, because the conversation is happening right now.